Hello and welcome back to SportsZone. It's our first episode of the semester. Hope you guys didn't miss us. I'm your host, Ben Florence. Got a great show ahead of you. Great half-hour action, new format, so stay tuned for that. Vince Salandro, we got Dylan Choate alongside. We got to talk about, gentlemen, what's really the biggest topic in sports right now. And it's been a while since boxing has been the biggest topic as it is right now. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, May 2nd, MGM Grand in Las Vegas. It's going to be probably the most lucrative fight of all time. Dylan, discussions for this fight go all the way back to 2009. Both sides were kind of ducking each other. It seems surprising that the fight is actually going to happen.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like you said, this is definitely the biggest hype fight in a while. People are comparing it back to when Ali was fighting and some of those big fights. But like you mentioned, that fighting, especially boxing, hasn't been in the forefront of American sports for a while. And this fight alone is definitely going to do it. Maybe it's not going to continue that, but this fight definitely will. Going back 5 years, this fight's been in the making. They've been dodging each other. There's been the wanting to use steroid testing. They've wanted to do all this. They've wanted the certain purses and the money to kind of balance out. And finally, after 5 or 6 years of doing this and negotiating, they finally agreed at the Miami Heat basketball game to make this fight happen. Part of it, I think, is they're definitely both getting up there in age. They're 37 and 36, and they're both kind of at the end of their career, getting older, slowing down, losing some of their power. So now they're not as much at their prime. They're not worried about getting knocked off and losing the number 1 or number 2 pound-per-pound fighter in the world status like they used to. So now that they're older, they can kind of take this risk and have this fight.
And Vince, even though, as Dylan mentioned, Mayweather-Pacquiao definitely getting up there in age, haven't looked as strong as they've been really the past few years for Mayweather and really the last 5 years for Pacquiao. And yet you still can make, it is still the case that they're the 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport right now. So what are your thoughts on the big fight?
I think, regardless of the fact that they may be getting up there in age, they are without a doubt the 2 most known names in boxing. So just on their name value alone, this fight generates so much chatter, so much attention that it's kind of good for boxing, as it really has kind of fallen to the forefront and to the back of people's minds. It's kind of bringing it up and bringing excitement back, even if they are getting up there in age. These are two of the most prominent fighters in our time, probably some of the best, and just I feel like we've wanted this fight for so long, and now we finally have it, and a lot of people are going to be very excited about that.
Yeah, and Vince made the point, the fight, it's been so long in the making. It seems like every time Floyd Mayweather would fight Marcus Maidana, would be like, oh, well, when's he going to fight Pacquiao? And Pacquiao, after he beat Hatton and all that stuff, when is he going to fight Mayweather? So, Dylan, this fight, I think everyone really, because you both mentioned, and I think everybody will realize, neither of these guys are at their zenith right now. Is this fight bigger now that it's been such a long wait, or will it be almost kind of a letdown because neither guy is at what he was when he was at his best?
I think the pre-hype before the fight is greater than it was 5 years ago, because it's been building for so long and people have been waiting for it forever, and there was the confrontation and all that sort of stuff. Once the fight comes to fruition, though, I think it's going to be a letdown. Mayweather hasn't knocked someone out in 8 years. Pacquiao hasn't knocked someone out since 2010.
Yeah.
So it's all these things. They're slowing down. Pacquiao was knocked out himself in 2012.
Oof, yeah.
Mayweather, over his last few fights versus Maidana and Cotto, have definitely been he's been a lot slower. It's been a decision. He hasn't looked his sharpest. So I think once the fight comes and they actually start fighting against each other, that's when it's going to be the letdown, because everyone's going to be expecting these high flurry of punches, the power from Pacquiao, the speed and elusiveness from Mayweather, and that's not going to be there as much. So that's where people are going to be a little bit disappointed. The fight's still going to be a great fight no matter what. They're both very, very skilled in what they do, and they're both different enough fighters that it's going to be interesting.
And Vince, Dylan made a great point. Mayweather and Pacquiao really haven't knocked out guys in years, and which only furthers the point that they're simply just not as strong as they once were. And, people have made the case, neither boxer, they got big because they took out guys that were on their decline. You can say that for Pacquiao when he took out Hatton, Mayweather when he took out really an aging De La Hoya, same thing for Pacquiao against De La Hoya. So do you agree with Dylan that this fight is now bigger, even if it won't be as good of a fight now than it would have been had this happened in, say, 2010?
I feel like when you kind of look at their track records, maybe the fight won't be as big as it was because there's no way that this fight in any way can live up to the hype that's behind it. Even back when we wanted this fight 5 years ago, I don't think the fight, even then, with the two boxers in their prime, could have given us what everyone expected. They're expecting this to be, the greatest battle of the 21st century, which really, at this point, is not realistic. Will it be a good fight? Probably, but will it be what everyone thinks it will be? Most likely not.
Well, I hope the show will be as good as you hope it is, if not better. We got more sports on the way, so keep it locked. Hello and welcome back to SportsZone. It's our debut edition, and I hope you're enjoying it. Vince Landro is back with us. We've got the great Dan Lagnato with us as well. We're going to talk a little AU basketball, AU women's basketball, because they are, although we may try and get to the men later on. But, women's basketball is a classic number one versus number two. Well, not in the overall rankings. But in the Patriot League, by far the two best teams, American and Army, they faced off Saturday in a snowy Washington, D.C. in front of actually a decent crowd for such a big game in Bender Arena. American, it was a sloppy game, a lot of turnovers. Neither team shot the ball well at all, but it was a huge win for AU, 45-42, with only a week or so until the conference tournament. Puts them in the driver's seat with the advantage for home court advantage. Obviously, every Patriot League tournament game is at home sites. Vince, how big was this win?
This win, I think, was enormous because when you look at how the women have played away from Bender Arena versus how they played in Bender Arena, their defense, first and foremost, at Bender Arena is just phenomenal. I don't think they've allowed maybe one Patriot League opponent over 50 points at home. So going forward, as we move into the Patriot League tournament, if they can have the games at home, I don't know what it is that they draw from defensively in Bender Arena, but they're a completely different team at home. Not saying that they're a inferior team away from home, but at Bender Arena, they just have something a little bit extra.
Dan, we love Coach Megan Jebbia, and she said after the game, the post-game press conference, because we were both there, that because the AU only shot like 38%, she said, if you would have told me that if we shot 38% and we still won, she would have been surprised, and yet that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If you look at it coming in, Army was I think the second best offensive team in the Patriot League. So there's certainly a real basis for what she's saying that you would think on paper that they would have to shoot much, much better in order to win. But let me tell you, that defense was, as Vince talked about, was really, really good. Kelsey Minato is the leading scorer in the Patriot League, and she went for 19 points.
She did.
But it took her 21 shots to get to 19 points, which I think it says a lot about what AU's defense, and she was, I think, the only Army player in double digits by far. So it was a real defensive battle, and you said it wasn't pretty, but they hit the buckets when they needed to. It was a big three from Shaquilla Curtis, 2 huge free throws from Ari Booth, 16 points from Michelle Holmes. Not your expected producers per se, as Jen Dumiak did not have a great game, but it was certainly sufficient, and they hit them when they needed to down the stretch.
Yeah, and you mentioned Michelle Holmes, who really carried the team, strong post defense, and scoring inside. She was the only scorer for AU in double figures. Jen Dumiak was the star of the team. She shot 2 for 12. Aaron Zimmerman shot very similar rates. So going forward, how big of a win, I'll throw this to you, Dan, first. How big of a win like this over a conference foe like Army, a very good team, how big of a win is this going forward in terms of the Patriot League tournament?
Well, I think this is huge. Army had beaten American at Army when they played the first time, and I think now you look at it, AU can go into the tournament knowing with confidence that they've beaten every team in their conference already, most of them twice.
Good point.
And I think that there's a mental side to that if I'm AU, I'm going in extremely confident knowing that I'm on my home court, and we've shown that we can beat these teams if we play our game. So what we have to do is just don't get phased by the stage, continue to play your game, and they should be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Vance, you want to expand on that?
I will, yeah, a little bit. I think also they can build on the fact, knowing that they beat the second best team in the league, probably having one of their poorest performances, at least from the offensive end of the season, and knowing that their best player, Jen Dumiak, really had an anomaly, a game where she didn't score in double figures or have lots of assists, where she didn't carry the team, knowing that they have another player who can step up, Michelle Holmes, if your best player isn't getting the job done. I feel like that's a big mental boost going forward, knowing if you're off your game and maybe your best player is not producing at the rate you normally expect and you can still beat the second best team in the league. That's a big confidence booster going forward.
Absolutely, and going forward, these are the kind of big wins because you have a number of senior players going forward that will be graduating. But this is the kind of win you can help build a program. The team was good last year in Coach Gebbia's first year. Now it's looking like, fingers crossed, could be the team to beat, potentially get to the NCAA tournament for the first time in a few years. That's what we're hoping for, but we're impartial. No, we're not. This is SportsZone. Keep it locked. We got more coming up.
Hello and welcome back. This is SportsZone. I am Dylan Choate. I'm going to be your host for this segment, and this is Getting to Third Base, our weekly baseball segment. Joining me, I got Dan and Aviva talking about everything baseball. By everything, we mean spring training, as in that just started a couple days ago. Pitchers and catchers have officially all reported. Players are going to be reporting shortly over the next couple of days. Some of the big names and younger players have already appeared, but it's pitchers and catchers time, which is why we're going to be going back to the free agent period in the off season, the hot stove. We touched a little bit upon it last year before we broke, but now we're really going to focus in on it. And today we're going to be focusing on pitchers. And it's all the pitchers who kind of move divisions, move teams, and their impacts that they're going to have, whether they're going to have up years, down years, whatever it may be. We got 4 pitchers today that we're going to be talking about, guys. We're just going to go back and forth to see what you guys think, what you think of the deal, as well as how you think they're going to be doing this year. We're going to be starting out with John Lester, going from the Red Sox to the Athletics, signing with the Cubs. Dan, what do you think of this?
Again, another fairly aggressive move by the Cubs. We talked about a little bit before we broke that they had hired Joe Madden to be their manager, which was also a fairly aggressive move for them. And I think this could be like their big free agent signing that they hope, a veteran presence for years to come to help with some of those younger players developing. And I think they're really trying to build around Lester now. He gives them a real focal point and a real solidified ace that they can build their young team around.
Yeah. Aviva, what do you think of this signing?
I think this is actually a really good signing because the Cubs fans especially, they really want to do well. And I feel like bringing in John Lester, as Dan said before, allowing him to coach the younger players, it might be their year maybe, but it definitely helps with the pitching. It definitely helps with the team dynamic, having this pitcher who's very good helping the younger players.
Yeah, and a lefty moving to Chicago, National League. Historically, National League pitchers do a little bit better, so we'll see how that works out. Staying in the National League, we're also going to be talking about Max Scherzer, going from the Tigers, huge name a couple years ago, consistently up there with strikeouts, Cy Young a couple years ago, signing with our hometown Washington Nationals. We'll stick with Aviva for this one. What do you think of the Nationals bringing in Scherzer to shore up this outstanding 5-man rotation that they now have?
I think this is amazing. Their 5-man rotation is probably the best in the MLB right now, and this signing definitely helped that. And with great pitching, I feel like offense will definitely happen, and I think this is a huge deal for Washington, D.C., and I'm excited to see how Max Scherzer is doing.
Dan, what do you think of the Scherzer signing?
A great move by the Nationals, as much as it pains me to say. Really, I mean, you look at if Jordan Zimmerman is your 4th starter, I mean, that guy could be an ace for some teams, and that's incredible. As you mentioned earlier when we were off the air, Tanner Roark, who had an ERA under 3, is now headed to the bullpen. Yeah. Certainly, I think, far and away the best rotation in baseball, and I think this is a signing that is because of their October struggles. Mm-hmm. I think that they realized that on paper, this team should be doing better than we are. We should be competing for a World Series. What do we got to do? There's a final piece that we don't have, and going out to get Scherzer, that might be enough. That might push them over the edge.
Yeah, and like you said, that's definitely them trying to focus on. They've had some pitching issues. As good as their rotation has been, they have had some of those struggles over the past years. But now with Scherzer, Strasburg, Gio, Jordan Zimmerman, and then Doug Fister as their 5-man rotation, Roark now in the bullpen, their pitching rotation is going to be solid and easily best in the major leagues. We're going to stay in the National League for the other big free agent signing of the year, and that was James Shields signing with the San Diego Padres. And this deal was kind of drawn out for a while. He was one of those ones that was up there with Scherzer and John Lester, and finally signed with the Padres a couple weeks ago. Dan, what do you think of the James Shields signing?
I was surprised to see the Padres make as big of a push as they did, because you don't often, they're not really known for huge free agent destinations, but they've had a busy offseason. We'll touch on it more probably when we talk about some position players.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But it was a good move for them. I'm not sold that this is enough. You know, you look at that division, you've got the Dodgers, you've got the defending World Champions in the Giants, who, you know, have 2 of the best pitchers in baseball in Kershaw and Bumgarner. You know, yeah, he goes by Big Game James, but that's the only one guy. I think there's some more that needs to be done for the Padres, but a bit like the Cubs, it's a sign of where they want to go.
Yeah. Aviva, what do you think?
Like Dan, I was also very surprised because you don't really hear about the Padres doing anything, and then now them having James Shields, it's like, what? I think it is also a really good deal for them to have another player to maybe get their rotation back to what they wanted, and then hopefully the rest of the pieces will fall in place.
Yeah. So we're going to focus on one last pitcher. We're going to go through this quickly because we're running out of time. One of the trades of the offseason was Jeff Samardzija going from the Oakland Athletics, staying in the American League, going to the White Sox, shoring up their division. Aviva, quickly, what do you think of the Samardzija deal?
I think it's great for the White Sox. I feel like he's a really good pitcher, and it will only help the White Sox do
Dan?
better.
Yeah, they've been missing an ace for a little bit of time now, ever since they let Mark Burley go. Yeah. So I think he certainly gives them that. Again, they're not really on the cusp of anything, but it's where they want to go.
Yeah, no, he's a young, controllable guy. Him and Chris Sale kind of leading that rotation this upcoming season. We will see what happens. But that is it for the pitcher movements. Next week, we'll see when we have some time what we'll be getting into of some of the player movements and what happened there. But keep watching SportsZone. This has been Getting to Third Base. We'll see you guys next week.
And we welcome you back to Sports Zone. It is our final segment of the show. You know, I know. Sports Zone, what's good, what's bad, anything else. Whatever you got, we got Dylan Choate's back with us. I'm Ben Florence. Aviva Chidel, I believe I said that correctly. So point to Flo. Aviva, we're going to lead off with you. What do you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
So I'm going to start with my thumbs down. It's the New York Knicks.
Great club.
In the beginning of the season, they said they were going to be a playoff contender. Not at all. They're last in the NBA. They are like 10-48 or something like that. They are horrible. They shut down Carmelo he has like knee injuries, and they bought out Amari Stoudemire's contract, so he's done too. So now it's all like rookie players who don't really know what they're doing. And it's not a fun sight to go to games or to watch. I'm going to go with my thumbs up to the New York Mets. I've been sad about the New York Mets for a long time, and hopefully Matt Harvey's coming back, so that's going to be good. And DeGrom, who won Rookie of the Year last year, so that's good. And hopefully David Wright will have a good season. And we signed Kadire also, who will be a great veteran, and then hopefully he'll help the younger players. And hopefully we'll do good. Second place I'm perfectly fine with, so hopefully.
Excellent. Modest expectations. That's what we strive
That's all we
for.
need for. That's what we do at Sports.
Dylan Choate, you're next.
Hey, we're also going to start up with the thumbs down this week. Thumbs down is going to go to Jerry Rice. This one's going to
Legend.
been brewing for a while. Exactly. Loved the guy. Great football player. Loved him in backyard football. I think it was like 2004 is what I have, with like Steve Young on the cover.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Late,
that.
deep throwback now.
Classic.
But Jerry Rice has been one of the more vocal critics of the so-called Deflategate, which NFL still hasn't released anything on, and there's rumors flying for every which direction right now. But Jerry Rice says how there should be a little asterisk next to the Patriots Super Bowl victory because of they cheated and they did all this sort of stuff.
Oh, my God.
But yet, everyone forgets that a week or two before, he openly said in an interview with ESPN that he put stickum on his gloves.
Oh, yeah.
To just kind of give myself, everyone was doing it. I just kind of put some stickum on there. You know, it was kind of illegal, but I did it anyways. This is coming from a Hall of Famer, Jerry Rice, leads the NFL in most receptions ever, and I think most reception yards as well.
Oh, yeah.
By far, like large margins, and openly says that he cheated. But oh no, the Patriots, because they maybe might have done this, should have an asterisk next to their Super Bowl. Everyone's been tearing him apart for doing this and for saying all this sort of stuff, and I'm going to jump on that train. I don't see how you can say, I cheated, but everything I did was clean, and where the NFL hasn't released anything, whether the Patriots cheated or not, and say they immediately need to lose this playoff game and put an asterisk next to the Super Bowl.
investigation.
So, Jerry Rice, yeah, thumbs down also the investigation. The amount of leaks and things that supposedly have happened, and the locker room attendant, and the NFL's maybe giving the balls and like getting. I don't even know what's happening right now. The NFL hasn't released anything. People lay off Deflategate for a little bit until they release. This is what we found, because the amount of speculations out there could be anything from the Patriots murdered someone to they won the Super Bowl by like summoning gods onto the field. I don't even know. There's a lot.
That would be awesome.
It would be awesome. But thumbs up, getting SportsZone back.
Yeah.
It's good. We got a very strong cast today, which is good.
Always.
So that's a good thumbs up. Thumbs up is also going to go to a lot of big fights coming out of the UFC world. I know earlier we spoke about the Pacquiao and Mayweather fight, but we have a lot of big fights. Ronda Rousey's fighting again for the first time in a while. John Jones is going to be fighting in May. Chris Weidman's coming back to injury, fighting Vitor Belfort. Huge big fights coming up. The Ronda Rousey fight coming up this weekend, in fact, is going to be a big one against number one contender Kat Zingano. Make sure you guys watch that fight. That's going to be a good one. Staying in the UFC world, don't know if you saw this one, Ben. This is my last thumbs up. Over this weekend, there was another fight. Frank Mir ended up beating Antonio Bigfoot Silva via knockout in the first round, which was amazing. Wow. But the big fight of the night was this American Smiling Sam Alvey.
America.
He looks like a very just average guy, walked off the street, has a little smiley face carved in the back of his head. Me and my buddy Brian, you guys know him from Chin to Chin, was saying, this kid's going to lose. He's going to get knocked out instantly. This fight's going to end. And as we're listening to the announcers, they go, Smiling Sam has 15 knockouts in his career, blah, blah, blah. And we go, there's no way this kid has 15 knockouts. There's no way. This entire first round, he was eating kicks, taking punches. He threw a total of 2 punches this entire first round, up until the 3-minute mark, where he dodges a punch, hits the guy with a left hook, and drops him.
Wow.
He threw 3 or 4 punches the entire fight and knocks the guy out. He said afterwards in his post-interview that he goes, this may sound a little strange, but my strategy was to eat a couple leg kicks early so I would know his range and then end it with a punch early in the first round.
That's usually my strategy.
And that's what he did. So thumbs up to Smiling Sam Alvey. Hopefully this 16 knockouts now can kind of continue. But for someone who looks like a little average guy who's smiling when he walks in, congrats on that one. That's it for me.
All right. As a smiling average guy, first thumbs down. Can we get? We're a week until March, which is also just crazy to believe. And can we get rid of this cold? It is cold. It's been cold as hell for like a month. So if we can get rid of that, that would be great. Thumbs up to the praise I'm getting for this little thing I like to call my mustache. I play intramurals. I've had a player on the other team during the game, he was not in the game, come up to me when I was on the bench and said, he shook my hand and he said he loved my mustache. Another time I was at NBC, and I walked by Luke Russert, who I then was in the control room for his show, and he's like, "Love the stash, well played, man." And I'm like, "Okay, this is awesome." So while there are some haters, and to quote a great musician, the haters are gonna hate, hate, hate. The mustache is great, and it's staying. Also, thumbs up. We didn't get to it because nobody cares besides me. Daytona 500 was great. Again, haters can hate, hate, hate. Joey Logano, huge win. It's my pick to win the championship. Good stuff. So for Aviva, Vince, Dan Lagnato, Dylan Show, I am Ben Florence. Thank you for watching SportsZone. We will see you next time.